Alright, what is going on, guys? Blazze here, and we are back with episode 2 of Learning League. We'll be going over the Masteries and Runes in this episode, and let's get right into it. Okay, so one of the biggest problems for new players and for low elo players is understanding runes and masteries. Now, runes and masteries are basically, to give a little brief description of what they are, they're little buffs that you get within the game. I'll show you guys later on what I mean by that. But for now, I'm just going to explain the very basics. So runes and masteries, you get them every time you level up. If you're level 30, you should already know this by now, and you should have all 30. If you're still learning the game, you'll earn one rune, one mastery every time you level up until you hit level 30, and you'll have 30 for each. Okay, now if you want to locate your rune and mastery pages, you just go into your profile, you go into the runes tab, or you go into the masteries tab, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so now we're going to start off with the masteries and basically how to deal with them. So when you start off the game, this is what you see, and even for the players that are already kind of experienced with this, you still need to understand what masteries are. So masteries are, like I said, they're basically little buffs that you get within the game, and masteries are more in-depth than runes. Like, these have more specific things than runes go by. So you're gonna need your masteries within the game. You can't just have your runes, you're gonna need both. So it is divided into 3 sections: ferocity, cunning, and resolve. And the way I basically look at it is ferocity is more of like your aggressive damage side. So like anything damage related, you're basically gonna find it in ferocity. Everything defensive is all in resolve, and then the in between is all cunning. So cunning is kind of like the utility slash damage side of the mastery page. So now once you understand that, it should help you out a bit more, you know. So right here in this section, you can name your mastery page. You have points available to use. You save your pages and you can return them. So like if you have all 30 filled and you don't want to remove them one by one, you can just hit return. And you can also delete pages. Now, one thing that a lot of players fail to do is read the masteries. I know a lot of players that just go on sites like Mobify or LPGG, or they'll look up what other pros are using and they'll just copy. You know, they'll say, okay, so this seems to be popular, let me use this, without even understanding what it does. And that's very, very bad, just because you'll have incidents where you'll have certain masteries that just don't go on a certain champion. Like, yes, you can use them because there's nothing that's not going to allow you to, but it isn't the right thing to use and it's going to affect you within the game. So one thing I recommend is just take some time and just sit here and read what each mastery does. That way you get an understanding of you know, why you should use it and who you should use it on. Now when you have a point, you simply just click on it to add, and it'll fill it up. If you want to like switch it around, you can just keep clicking to add them into, like, you know, separate sections. One thing to note though is that you see how they're divided into rows. Now I'm not sure if this is rows or columns. I think this is rows. So each row, you can't surpass the second number that's divided into. So you can't have 10. You know, you can only use 5 on this row. On this row, the rows that have 3, you can only choose 1. The ones that have 2, you can only, you know, divide the 5, and it'll just keep going like that until you reach the end. So, you know, some you can, like I said, just read the masteries yourself, and you can determine, you know, if you want to divide it, if you just want to max it out, you know, and then which one you would want to use. So, like I said, you have to read in order to understand why you should use it. Now, once you fill up an entire tree of masteries, you'll reach the keystone. Now, each section has its own keystone. They have 3 per section, but you can only choose 1 keystone per mastery page. Deciding which keystone you should use is all, you know, determined on the champion you're using. So like I said, you have to read the keystones, you have to read the masteries, understand what it does, so you know who to use it on. Because once you understand what it does, you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense, this will go really good on blank champion, you know. So be sure to read them. It does take 18 mastery points in order to get to the keystone. You only have a remainder of 12, which you can divide you know, into like the other 2 sections, regardless of what sections you're using, you know. Okay, so now I'm gonna give you guys a quick example of why you should read your masteries. And just because, like I said, you need to, one of the big things about masteries is literally reading. And yeah, I feel like you'll never understand what masteries truly are or what they do unless you read them. So basically, let's say you have a champion like Lucian, right, who has no CC. And even if you don't know who Lucian is, he's a champion with no CC. CC is crowd control, so stunts, taunts, knockups, things like that. So he doesn't have any of that. Now let's say you take Courage of the Colossus. So let's go with this, for example. Alright, so this is the mastery page you're using on Lucian. Now don't ever use this on Lucian, okay, please. But say you're using it for whatever reason, this would be very, very bad. Mainly because this keystone would be entirely useless on a champion like Lucian. And that is going to cost you a lot in game because you're basically down a keystone. Now let's say you're facing someone who's using the right keystone. He's going to have an upper hand on you automatically. So this is why you need to read them and understand. Now the reason why this wouldn't work on Lucian, for those, you know, if you're wondering, is this is triggered by CC. If you read it, it says you basically get a shield for CCing a champion. Now if you're Lucian, you don't have no CC, so you can't crowd control anyone, you can't stun, taunt, so then you're never going to get the shield and you're basically down a keystone. See, this is very important. You need to read it in order to understand it, okay? Now one last thing is that masteries do change every once in a while, so don't always use the same routes and the same things. You know, they change, so you're gonna have to keep reading them every time they change, and sometimes they'll update it as well, and you need to read, you know, what changes are, so if you should keep using it or not. You gotta keep yourself informed. That's one of the, you know, main things that's gonna help you out with this game. This game is not all in-game technique and mechanics. A lot of it is informing yourself on what to do and why to do it. Now another thing is, if you are going to use sites like OPGG and MobileFire and stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. You can look what other players are using and stuff like that, and pros as well. You can see what they're using, but like I said, it's always good to read it, just so that, like, if you see what they're using, you know, read it just so you understand why they're using it, and you're not just using it because, like, oh, he's using it, so let me use it, because, you know, it makes sense. If you read it, if you're gonna copy it, that's fine, but read the masteries and understand why they're using it. That way it'll make you a better player. Like I said, back to the Courage of the Colossus. Let's say you're copying it off of a pro player because you saw him take it on like Hecarim, for example. Why is he using it on Hecarim? You know, you have to understand, because if you don't, let's say you don't understand what Courage does at all, and you take it, you don't know that you're gonna get a shield every time you crowd control someone. So you have to understand why you're using it and what it does, so that it'll help you in game and you know how to use it in game. So if you are going to copy it off of other people and sites and get help, fine, but please read it and understand why they're using it and why you should copy them. Now, like I said before, you can make up to 20 pages, so if you want, you can use all 20 of the pages. You can set them up for different champs, different playstyles, different keystones. By all means, if you need to use all 20 to help you out, use it, alright? Because you're not going to get penalized by that. Riot's giving it to you for a reason, so make good use of it. If you want to be like me and make generic ones, and then, you know, remind yourself to change the keystone, go for it. But, you know, remind yourself to change the keystone. Don't be the derp who takes the wrong keystone on the wrong champ. So, like I said, just do whatever works for you. Now, that's enough with masteries. We're going to go into the runes. Now, runes are way more complicated, but to locate it, just go right next to your mastery page tab. It is right here, and it is called runes. Now, I have 11 pages, so unlike masteries, you actually have to pay for pages, which is unfortunate. because I feel like if players were granted more pages, it'll help them out in game. But you're not, so you're gonna start off with 2 pages, right? So I have 1 empty one, so it's gonna look like this. Now runes are more complicated because Riot doesn't really explain what they do and why you should get them. It's kind of just like left in the wait, and it'll just tell you that you unlocked a new rune slot, but a lot of players, you know, they don't understand what it does. So I'm gonna try to explain this as best as I can. Okay, so this is how your rune page okay, so this is how your rune page is gonna look like. It's divided into 4 sections: marks, seals, glyphs, and quintessences. Now, like the masteries, or unlike the masteries, these aren't divided into like certain sections. So you know how like the masteries is kind of divided into like offensive and defensive and whatnot. Runes are not like that. They're just 4 sections. Quins are the best section, unlike the others. So quins will grant you the most of a certain thing. Now I'm not sure why they have a separation on marks, seals, and glyphs. There has to be a reason why. I don't think they'll just separate them for nothing. I just don't understand why. I haven't looked into it. You know, I haven't needed to. So if anyone does know why marks are separated from glyphs and seals, I'll be sure to leave it in the comments. I'd be interested to find out. Now, to purchase runes, you need IP. So as a League player, you should know what IP is. IP is like the currency in game. You need to go to the shop and go to the gameplay section, and here are all your runes. Okay, so like I said, it also is divided into the types, so you can go here and see which types you need when you're purchasing, and the effects. They also have effects. So unlike the masteries, these effects are much more simpler. Like you don't have to trigger stuff, or you don't have to do like certain things, or it'll like give you certain things in game. These are all just like basic. So like extra damage, extra movement speed, extra, you know, it's just like a plus on certain things that you already get within the game. But like I said, they're buffs, so it'll help you. It'll increase, you know, like certain things that you want to increase. Now they're divided into 2 tiers. Tier 2, which would be the weaker one, and tier 3, which would be the best. Now you guys have it easier because back then there was 3 tiers, and it was much more complicated with pricing and stuff, but Riot did us all a favor and just like made it more simpler. Now tier 2 are very, very cheap. They all cost 1 IP, and a lot of people buy them to start off. I don't recommend doing that. So if you are a new player, well, this is what I recommend. Once you hit level 20, you'll be able to purchase tier 3 runes at level 20. So save your IP till you're level 20. Don't buy champions. Use the free to play. Once you hit level 20, you'll have enough IP to buy runes for both your pages. So you'll only be at level 20, right? So you can only buy 20 runes for each page. So you're gonna be able to buy 40 runes, because it's 20 plus 20 for each page. You'll be able to buy 40 runes at level 20 if you save your IP. So please save it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you'll need about 7,000 by the time you hit level 20. If I'm wrong, someone correct me, but I think it's 7,000 because I've done this quite a bit. So once you're at 7,000, you can start spending your IP. Anything above that, you know, but always make sure you're at 7,000 by the time you hit level 20, so you can buy your runes. And trust me, you need your runes. A lot of people don't understand that how important they are. I'm gonna show you that later, but let's just continue. Okay, now for the people that are already level 30, and if you don't have your runes, save your IP as well. Don't buy champions. You don't need them. You can use the champions that you have or free to play. And if you're playing ranked, then use the champions that you have. Save your IP. It'll help you because you're gonna need runes. So like I said, let's ignore tier 2. Let's not even get into that because they're useless. Eventually you're gonna buy tier 3 anyway. So why make the double purchase, right? Just buy the ones you need. So when you're gonna buy tier 3 runes, you can just search the ones you need, or you can look through it, browse, and you know, just buy whatever you need. So back to the page. Once you okay, so back to a page. So once you have purchased runes, you can start placing them. So I have a lot, so we're gonna create a ability power page just because it's the first one on my list. So like I said, if you're gonna hit level 20, you'll only have 20 slots, so just, you know, use what you have. But we're gonna go with the level 30 one just because it's because I have level 30 and I have 30 slots rather, and I'm level 30. So we put the 3 quins in our contestant spots. Then we go to our glyphs, and let's put some defense up in here. Now, you don't have to copy these. I'm just using these as an example. You know. So this is just how you'll place it, basically. You know, whatever ones you purchase, you just place them into the slots. Okay. Okay, so once you've added all the runes, you know, onto like the page, it'll even show you your statistics right on the side. So look, I'm starting off with an extra 7.8 magic pen, an extra 15 ability power, plus 12 magic resist, and by the time I reach level 18, I'll have an increased health of 216. So it even tells you like what you're doing and how you're helping yourself in game. So always be sure to read that. That way you understand what it's doing for you. And that's basically it. That's all you need to know to, with runes for the most part. Like I said, just save your IP, buy them, place them on the page, and, you know, like, name them. Even you can even name them right here, so you know what they're doing for you. I like to make mine, you know, kind of like a little like gist of what it is. So like, for example, see, this is my ability power health page. So I have like basic ability power stuff, max, I get like health per level, some cooldown reduction. So I like to like basically name them by what they give me. Other players name them for like what champions they use, playstyles, lanes. You can do that if you want, whatever works for you. It's kind of like the Masteries. Now, like I said before, you only start off with 2 rune pages, and this is one thing I highly recommend. For any new players, stick with 2 and buy 2 generic ones. So buy a AD generic one and an AP generic one, and stick with those 2, because remember, there's only 2 types of damages in the game, AP and AD. So stick with one of each. Once you start increasing your IP, once you start increasing your gameplay, buy more rune pages at the shop. They go on sale every once in a while, be sure to buy them. And then, you know, you buy more runes and you make more rune pages for certain. Then you start going into specifics. You know, you start going into like you know, one for your AD carry role, one for your assassins, you know, one for your jungler. You know, you start like going into more specific roles. But when you start off, or if you're just starting off, just make 2 generic ones. For the players that have already been playing a while and have multiple rune pages, be sure to use all of them. Don't just buy extra rune pages and leave them blank like me, because, you know, you gotta use them. Alright. Okay, now for any new players, I'm gonna try to leave 2 links in the description for 2 generic pages. I usually do that for a lot of the new players that add me or that I try to get into League. I'll leave them in the description. It's gonna be a basic generic AD page and a generic AP page. So like once you hit level 20, you know what to buy. You know, that way you're not too confused. Okay. If you need any help, just let me know. And also, if you are going to copy those pages that I'm going to leave for any of the new players, be sure to read the statistics. Like I said, reading is very, very useful. Understand why you're using it and how it's going to help you in the game, okay? So I'm going to leave 2 generic ones. Feel free to use them if you want. Okay, so like I said before, I was going to show you guys how runes and masteries affect you in the game. So right now I'm in a custom game and I have a page, 2 pages, runes and masteries, that are both empty. So if you notice, I have my stats out. Now I don't know why you can't see my cursor, but I'll zoom into it. You can see that I have my stats right there, and it shows 55 attack damage, 0 ability power, 22 armor, 30 magic resist, 0.66 attack speed, 0 cooldown reduction, 0 critical strike, and 325 movement speed. So those are my base stats, right? Those are the stats that I start off with without having any runes or masteries. Now, also when I press tab, you can see the little X right there. That basically shows that I have no keystone equipped. So make sure you never have an X. It'll show you even on the loading screen if people have an X. That means they have no masteries, or no keystone rather. And if you do have a keystone, it'll show the picture of the keystone instead of the X. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys how it'll look like with me using runes and masteries, and you guys are going to see the difference. Okay, so now I have my regular runes and masteries that I normally use like on Ziggs. So as you can see, when I press tab, I have a keystone now. I have done the Lord's Decree, and you can see the little picture there instead of the X. And if you look at my stats, once again, I have the same amount of attack damage, 57, which is normal, because I go ability power on Ziggs. As you can see, my ability power is now at 19, armor still at 22, magic resist up to 34, attack speed still at 0.66, cooldown reduction now at 1, critical strike still at 0, and then movement speed still at 3.25. So you see a slight difference, right? Like I said, it all depends on what you change it to. So, you know, like, the point is, I got a buff. You know, I have an increase from my base stats. It's not gonna be the biggest increase, you know, because you're not buying like full purchased items and stuff. But it is gonna be an increase that's gonna help you a lot. Like, wouldn't you rather start off with 19 ability power rather than, you know, 0? Automatically, the person with 19 has the upper hand. So let's say you're facing someone who has 19 and you have 0. You know, he's gonna be wrecking you in the beginning of the game, and you know that wreckage in the beginning can literally determine whether you lose or win. So wouldn't you rather have an even advantage at the start and then just see who plays it out the best from there on, rather than be at a deficit from the beginning and pretty much lose the game from there on? Alright, so that pretty much wraps up everything I needed to teach you guys about runes and masteries. I guarantee you some people are still gonna need help and have questions for me, so if you do, be sure to leave them in the comments down below. I'll be down to answer anything you need help with. Hopefully go in depth with like certain things you need help with. Also, if you want to add me and play with me, or you know, even ask me for help on League, IGN is iBlazze, IBLAZZE. It'll also be in the description if you need it. And yeah, that pretty much concludes this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it helped some of you guys out. If it did, be sure to slap a like on it, and see you guys in the next one. Peace.